Greetings, welcome, and salutations, gamers. Welcome to Cast Co-op, the podcast in which three podcast hosts cast together. I am one of your co-hosts, Luke Lore, the insipid ghost, and host of the Xbox Expansion Pass. Joined tonight by the Mr. Make Souls Dark again, Ainsley Bowden, host of Season Gaming's Bitcast. How are you, sir?
I am tired, boys, but I am here ready to talk about a similar thing for the reason I'm tired. So that's what we're talking about tonight. Gaming industry layoffs after the big announcement tonight, which will be an interesting conversation, I think.
I think it'll be a short conversation. I was surprised this was our main topic. So I'm curious to know if I'm just out of the loop here. That's just sometimes a thing. I'm also joined by host of the Trophy Room, a PlayStation podcast, Mr. Joseph Moran. Hello, sir. Welcome.
Hello. Happy to be here. Now, can I tell you guys something that I found truly triggering today? Or last night, rather?
Yeah, hit me.
You know the whole thing that's been going around. I think it was like last week or so. We were kind of late to it.
Getting a cheap platinum? That thing?
No. This is more serious than that. More serious. Of who would win in a fight? Joel versus Leon Kennedy.
Leon Kennedy would absolutely win. What?
Yeah, that's not even a debate.
And
what a stupid question.
Well, prepare for a stupid answer. My co-host Kyle, all right, one of my best friends, thinks Joel would win in a fight. You want to know why?
Because he's never played Resident Evil, clearly.
Street smarts. And he's been surviving for 20 plus years. He could get the jump on Leon if it's a fist to fist mano a mano.
Has Kyle
the dumbest thing I've ever heard?
Yeah. Listen,
Kyle's never been in a fight.
No, unless I've been in a scrapper too.
This is screaming like a lot of ignorance. I'm hearing right now.
Right?
Never fought.
And I'm saying like this, one of these guys is military trained, okay? Like SEAL Team 6 level trained, and one guy is just an angry dad. Like it's not even a close fight.
No.
You know?
Mhm.
It's thank you.
No, there's no technique when you're just trying to survive. There's no. I don't even understand why this is a conversation.
Exactly. He's like, well, if it's a gunfight, sure, Leon. But like, he's saying, oh, because the merchant's giving him all the weapons. I'm like, it doesn't matter. He can have a hoop and a stick. He's gonna kick like Joel's ass. Like it's that simple.
Just give Leon a golf club and the whole thing's over anyway. I mean,
right. Exactly. Like, come on, man.
Joel got beat up by a tough girl.
Yeah.
And I mean, I'm not putting down Abby because she's a beast. But
no, it sounded like it. Also, Ains, what's with the hat, man? It really is uncomfortable to look at. Like, what is happening here? You friggin' weirdo.
Your face is uncomfortable to look at. I don't ask you to take that off.
Yeah, but I know what I am and who I am. You're hiding your face.
I don't mean to. It's a weirdly, like, if you look at it, it's weirdly shaped. You know what I mean? So it just kind of goes like I could go like that, and then I'll look like, "Hey guys, what's going on?"
Honestly, that's maybe not.
I don't think
I'll take the hat off.
You want
me to take the hat off and just
please.
It's unsettling.
Yeah, it is weird.
Unsettling.
Also, Joe, turn on a light, man. You're so dark.
There you go. Now I get my big beautiful
like
head
today. But yeah, I am a little dark.
Yeah, you're a little bit.
There's someone in the chat saying Joel would win. I'm letting you know this.
How? I swear to God, if that is Dan from the nerd chat that's saying that, the same man who legitimately thinks Little Caesars is pizza, I couldn't believe it. Like, I'm not gonna die on a hill and say Pizza Hut or Domino's needs to be your champion. No. Come on, that's it's fast food. It is what it is. But Little Caesars is pure trash, and awful. I need him to know. And that is the most important thing I saw on Twitter today. Okay,
awful.
Okay.
Who thinks Little Caesars is good?
Nobody. No one.
No, people eat Little Caesars because it's cheap, not good.
Correct. It's trash food for trash people, for people that are on the struggle. It's just what it is. Like,
Fair.
it is trash food. I couldn't believe it. He like legitimately doubled down on it.
Really?
It was concerning.
It's just, I like to sit on the ivory tower that is the tri-state area and just go like, all your pizza is trash. I like that.
Yeah, and you're right. And like, I'll not have any argument about Chicago. Like, okay, calm down. Deep dish is more like a lasagna. Like, you're borderline. Calm down. New
And
York
also,
pizza is the best pizza.
I'm over 300 pounds. That's gonna kill you. Like, all right. And I would just eat almost anything but that. Yeah. All of a sudden,
I want to shout out.
nut.
I want to shout out Midnight Dreary gifting a season gaming membership. It sadly went to Luke, so apologies for that, Dreary. But as always, a big supporter of the channel. Thank you so much. Appreciate you.
Thank you.
All right, boys. You guys ready to get right into it?
Yeah, let's do it.
Luke, do you wanna bring up this topic? You wanna start casting?
So yes, absolutely.
He's in his own world.
There are a couple places we can go tonight. Okay. Dev Direct, which worth talking. We haven't talked together about it. Pal World, setting the world on fire. And then of course the layoffs. And I think you're alluding to the layoffs, and that's what you'd like to talk about, correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
So absolutely devastating news for a number of people who have been in the gaming industry across a number of different companies. Xbox, or rather I should say Microsoft, being kind of the big one that gathered attention today. But industry layoffs are happening at a rate that I don't think we've seen before, or at the very least has not been publicized before. Roughly 1,900 from Microsoft let go today across multiple divisions, particularly Activision Blizzard divisions. Pretty astounding, all things considered. We're at a rate way higher than 2023, which was bad in and of itself. And of course, we're 3 weeks done with January, where I'll invite you to comment, because I think I'm far more passive about this, and that might make me the bad guy. And so I'd like to be either course corrected or educated, or just maybe my attitude adjusted on this. I felt like for Activision Blizzard specifically, this did not come as a surprise and something that was a known quantity, given that we merged two huge companies, given that we expected redundancies across a number of different teams, given that in the gaming specific space, we saw members of the Overwatch team go, and Overwatch underperformed. Bobby Kotick's fault, mind you, not a fault of the team members.
Yeah.
But I was not surprised by this particular news. I'm no longer surprised, sadly, about the Embracer news. If it comes to the human element, I find it all very devastating. But I did not find any doom and gloom. Xbox just did $3 trillion Microsoft company. Oh, we're letting go jobs. No, I don't think that's how the business actually works. So the human side of me felt awful for these human beings who lost their jobs, because that's their livelihood, their families, their pensions, how they feed how they put food on the table. But I was not surprised by the news, and I was genuinely timid to put that reaction onto socials today, and I held off at the risk of sounding insensitive. So I'm curious, am I far out of pocket here? Is it too soon to think that? Or are we just trying to be extra sensitive out of respect for the frustration those families are going through? Where should I be versus where I am?
It's optics. I think you're right. Nobody was surprised. This day was going to come whether we wanted it to or not, right? Mm-hmm. Once we heard that the merger went through, we all kind of knew, there's going to be redundancies. That means people are going to lose their jobs, and that sucks. That is also the nature of how these things shake out. I think that the number is, whether you want to call it sticker shock or just unexpected. I know, Jason Schreier on Bloomberg TV was actually talking about how himself, he was surprised of how, I think he said, bloody that was. He was not expecting that high of a number. And at the same exact time as, you know, it's kind of like when we saw that, slow jerk of a, hey, they're part of the team now. Xbox Activision montage sizzle reel trailer. Like, I'm just like, okay, and when's the pin gonna drop? Because this is, I'm waiting for the human element. I'm waiting for the bad news, and then seeing all these people, like I was trying to find some of the posts of like, man, we thought things were gonna get better without Bobby here, and now I'm out of a job. Like those type of comments. There's one comment in particular that I wanted to read because it broke my heart. This one woman just going, I don't. Oh, here it is. She goes, I'm no longer at High Moon Studios. I'm going to die without my medication. Like, it's like those elements that we don't think about.
Mhm.
It's like the I'm here for healthcare type of thing. Like,
Mhm.
We often forget that it's not just livelihood that goes away. And I think we've all been laid off or seen people laid off before, and it feels like the end of the world. So like I sympathize greatly with the amazing creatives that are often unthanked, and then even more so on the day of or day before Microsoft being the richest company in the world and then going, and we're going to lay off almost 2,000 of you. It's optically just pretty shitty. And just even how deep the cuts went, some projects that seemed very optimistic, like Odyssey from Blizzard being canceled. The Overwatch team is damn, even Sledgehammer got hit. Like, there was a lot of studios that saw redundancy that we didn't think was going to be the case, because it was like, oh, it's all PR people, it's all whatnot. But you're seeing artists, you're seeing level designers, you're seeing a whole swath of people just get the boot, just so that they can say on CNBC that they are the richest company in the world. It hurts. And the reality of it, as I say, all of that is like, well, they can't just keep 1,900 jobs. It's ironic because I was saying it to Kyle on the trophy room this week when we were talking about the riot layoffs, which I think we could talk a little bit about, because I think that's the right way of doing it, where it's like, hey, here's severance for a pretty long time with your health benefits for a pretty long time, half the year. And this is not to make a chart tick upwards. This is for our survival, and seeing them at least try to take care of those people. Excellent. We're not hearing that yet from this, but I was trying to tell Kyle, like, yeah, Riot made bets, as all companies do, and those bets didn't pay off. So as much as like I hate to see 500 people go, if the publishing arm is bleeding money, and so is this card game that's bleeding money, like, what are we expecting? And so it's like, to me, I'm at a crossroads where reality meets the human element, the empath of me, that it hurts. It's like, it sucks, and I understand, and I have the privilege of like sitting here and going, I understand it, because I bet a lot of people right now are sitting at their desks sulking and not, and it sucks.
Ains, you've had to combat the effects of layoffs, see the effects firsthand, and then be part of a team that tries to function then as a result of them. Did you have a different take? Am I or are we out of pocket? Where did you come in?
No. So I was literally typing notes because I have so many different points I want to make and so many different aspects of this I want to cover. It's tough to kind of keep them all in order. Yeah, so no, I don't think you guys are out of pocket. I think there's a lot of aspects of this. I would say I would start with, to your point, I have been through 3 different corporate mergers and 4 rounds of what would be considered mass layoffs in my career. The most recent, just 5 months ago, where our company laid off 2,400 people, a much smaller company than Microsoft, funny enough, about the same size as Microsoft Gaming. So the comparison here is relatively similar in terms of size. But but it creates chaos. So I'll say a few things to start. And you know me, especially in a conversation like this, I can go on. So feel free to jump in and I'll try to kind of break some of these points out. So I knew right away, the first thing when I saw this morning, it wasn't surprise, to your point, Luke. This was expected all along. I think anyone who has worked in the corporate space, especially at higher levels, would understand this was coming. I am a little surprised it came so soon. And the reason I say that is because the acquisition and merger just finalized however many months ago. It is, I remember saying at the time when we cast, it is going to take a very long time for all of the dust to settle internally as those companies come together and figure out how they're going to essentially align priorities for what is now Xbox gaming, right? And you can keep some independence and you can keep some specifics around what Blizzard's doing and what Bethesda's doing, but at the end of the day, you have a dad now, and the dad is Microsoft Gaming, and that direction would have to be aligned under a corporate set of objectives, right? And so for that to kind of settle, and then for the C-level execs to sit down and say, okay, where are all of our redundancies? Where are all the layers that we have to even out? That would usually take a lot more time than this. So this feels very fast to me. Not surprising, but surprisingly fast. And as I talk about this stuff, it should go without saying, I hope, if you know us well enough and you know me, you watch Seasoned Gaming enough, like I feel terrible for all the people affected, right? It sucks. And to Joe's point, there's all sorts of unique circumstances, especially in America where healthcare is tied to your employment, which is a whole another giant issue that's not related to video games specifically. But, you know, so I hope that goes without saying that if any of this comes off cold, I don't mean it that way, just factual. So I knew this morning when I saw the news that people were going to say they're a $3 trillion company. Why are they laying off people? And the fact of the matter is they are a $3 trillion company because they do this exceedingly well and have done so for 50, 60, 70 years, however long Microsoft, I forget when they were founded actually. But the fact of the matter is this is corporate America. This is corporate America. You are taking something, you are taking basically the product of it, figuring out how to optimize the wealth out of it, and you are doing it with as little expense as possible. And that's what corporate America does across many industries, not gaming, of course. But the reason I call that into play is that one of the things I think that gets lost on us as gamers, especially gamers who have been gaming for a long time, back when gaming was this niche little hobby and a joke among adults, basically at one point in time. Gaming is now, as we always say, the biggest media industry by a long shot globally. And what that means, of course, is money. And when you have hundreds of billions of dollars annually that are in an industry, you have major corporations and presence that are going to want their piece of that pie. And we've seen that grow. The Epics of the world, the Microsofts, the Sonys, the Tencents, the Embracers, you know, all these companies come in and want to take their chunk of this money. But what that also means is things like this, is that it's not the gaming hobby we grew up with, even though it was a business back then too, of course. But the feel of the gaming hobby we knew and loved as kids, or, you know, I'm going back older than you guys are, of course. But it feels colder now.
Because back in 1907, you didn't even have electricity.
It was wooden blocks. We called them video games, but you know.
Yeah.
And so I think that's important to note here, that I guess the point I'm making is that it feels rough. It's obviously fresh. It feels large because it is. But the sad fact of the reality is this is not the first, and it absolutely will not be the last. I think that the gaming community needs to come to terms with the fact that the gaming industry is massive. It's worth a ton of money nowadays, and it is run by major corporations. And this kind of situation that's occurred today will continue to happen until the end of time. It is a reality of the industry going forward. And the industry has a lot of maturing to do. And I think it has a lot of wrongs to right with how they treat certain positions within the industry. But this sounds cold again, but if I'm one of those people, you have to accept that as the reality of what you're getting into. I know there's so many people that look at entry level positions in the gaming industry, like artists and creators and producers, not low level or high level producers, but just people that are producing some aspect towards the completion of a game. Um, I see it no differently as just taking an entry level job at a major corporation, and that's what you're doing today. It's not a it's a I'm jumbling my words a bit, but it is a creative field that is in a corporate industry. And so you can say that games can't be made without these creatives, and you would be correct. But the creatives are not what runs the bottom line. And at the end of the
Yeah.
day, these positions are no different than any other corporate position that's going to be looked at on a spreadsheet. And I think that's the sad reality that I think a lot of the industry just hasn't come to terms with yet. But it's a fact.
And do
It's
you
not
think
going
that's
to change.
that's just simply because we're a very lucrative industry, that we're still a very young industry and we don't
Yes.
maybe understand fully, like,
Correct. 100%. You're dealing with a majority workforce that did not sign up necessarily to be in the corporate world, right? They got into the field because they wanted to create and they wanted to design and they wanted to build these things for us. And it's amazing and we love it. And those people are so incredibly talented. It's awesome.
Yeah.
But they're now in a corporate industry, and the corporate industry comes with a lot of pain and heartache. And I tell you this from experience. It's cold. It is all about the bottom line. It always has been, and it always will be. And while I feel for the people getting let go, there is some self-realization that has to happen of what your role was within that corporate structure, and knowing that, hey, this is not a position that is secure just because I can create something unique. It's just not. It's a
Right.
matter of fact. And it sucks, but it's the reality of our world. And I think that's where we get jumbled sometimes, because it's, again, I know I've said this, but it sounds cold, but reality is cold. The world is cold. Life is cold at times. It's a sad fact.
That's the fear I had in my first reaction. I was like, this seems expected. This seems like a part of business. And I was not surprised by it. I was sad, but not surprised.
Exactly.
But I saw so much, what I would argue, at least on socials, and that's a small ecosystem in the big picture, faux shock and faux offense on behalf of these developers. And that kind of surprised me. Like, Joe called them the panel of sevens. Like, everybody like shocked and shooketh that we would have loss happening in an industry that people. Hogue put out a wonderful tweet that I don't have up in front of me that makes perfect sense. Again, speaking to the coldness and reality of it, but also it is what it is. I also saw from one of the XEP Discord members who's fantastic, that he very much felt that Satya and Phil are cutthroat businessmen. I didn't get that vibe. I don't feel like this was a cutthroat act or action. I feel
think
like
cutthroat's the wrong word.
that's okay. Good. That's what that is what I said. So what is your take on that as we get some comments?
Well,
ready
I
from the
mean,
chat? Good comments in chat, by the way.
Yeah, I'm going to bring up a couple comments here we want to talk about, and some super chats as well. So cutthroat, it is, because that's again, it's the reality of it. But you do have leaders, and I don't pretend to know what Satya or Phil think in reality. I know what they say in public, but behind the scenes, I don't know what they say, in their minds. But generally speaking, these decisions are made because of the bottom line. It's not that someone wants to go out and fire people, right? Sure, you get those executives that couldn't give two shits about things, but I think cutthroat's probably the wrong word. I don't know the word exactly I would use here, but it's just, I have to imagine, my guess would be that as they take on the larger spend, the gross larger spend, right? As we've said many times, Phil has a boss like everyone else, and he goes to Amy Hood over the chief financial officer at Microsoft and Satya, and they have conversations about spend. and you have to look at revenue and you have to look at strategic direction. And the matter of the fact is they probably calculated all that out and said, where does Blizzard and Activision fit into our strategic direction, where we want to go with our services, our game production, and what can we do in terms of cost benefit analysis to level this field out? And these are the people that were chosen to be let go. It's really that simple. It's not simple, but it's really that clean. It's not a cutthroat to say, hey, we got to go cut 2,000 people. Just go pick people. You know what I mean? Like there's more kind of analysis, much more analysis done than that. Let's call out some of these comments as well. Funny, before we do it, let's get Mo's super chat here. Let me close this out here. Mo with the $4.99 super chat. Hello, I'm here for the advertised threesome. That's the Cast Co-op post show.
That's right. Patreon.com.
If you think $5 is getting you that,
he's
it's
right.
Much cheaper.
$2 would have been plenty.
Yeah,
honestly,
exactly.
We usually see coins. If I'm honest,
Yep.
It's true.
So Mo,
Ains is the only one that knows how to use them, though. He's that old.
We're not talking about the coins on that one. Machine XP with the $10 super chat. It's sad to hear, but we need to remember how many fans and critics have mentioned how bloated and low amount of output at ABK. I don't know how you guys want to talk about output. I think he means that the 8 studios or whatever at ABK were really just making Call of Duty. I'm guessing that's what he means.
I mean, there could be an argument of like, hey, listen, if we're not going to annualize as much Call of Duty anymore, then we don't need to make these studios as massive. And so maybe as they take more time to make these games, that you could have smaller teams. It goes into, I actually pulled up Hoag's tweet, and he says, folks, ABK was a full-fledged publisher. You don't need 2 separate back offices at one company. Pause a bit more before sounding the alarm bells for the industry, and while still being sympathetic for the individuals impacted.
I thought that was very well said.
Yeah. Oftentimes it is, except when he talks about Star Wars. How fucking dumb is he when it comes to Star Wars? Let me tell you, I love you to death. But awful Star Wars takes. Anyway, but yeah, no, again, it is like the harsh reality, but like, it's like, yeah, I understand the math and I understand the Excel spreadsheet you got it from. I'm just not happy with it. It's just like the human element. And I have to echo this or else it gets clipped
Corporate
out
America does not have a human element.
Yeah, it gets, and I got to preface this because the one of Podcasts of Sevens will clip this because I'm the PlayStation guy. This sucks if when Sony does it. We've talking about Bungie, talking about the layoffs. We talked about how selfish it was for the management to do what they did and how heartless it was in their responses to them not even, getting rid of their bonuses, because that's not the type of company Bungie is, like, you greedy assholes. So it's like we talk it, so much of how Jim Ryan is a robot. He does not, emote like a human. He cares more about his cats and his, female workers. It's just, when you look at stuff like this, when you see the headlines, it's hard not to go, oh, this sucks. And at the same exact time, I think the reason why we're talking about it as deeply as we are is because it does affect the industry that we love. It's different when you hear something like, I don't know, Meta has just laid off X amount of people. You don't know those people. You know what I mean? Not like you know them here on socials, but like they don't make the art that and you interact with. And I think that's the thing that's different, is like we engage with this medium. And so when we're seeing the medium impacted constantly and seeing those people speak out so fervently, I just made up a word, whatever. It's just it sucks.
Feverishly is what I think.
That's what I said. Fuck
yeah,
me. Right? Shut up. You guys are laughing at me. You smirking, all right? Luke's
Agreed.
red eyes are glinting at me. I don't like it.
Hey, come on.
Machine XP, thank you for the super chat. Appreciate you. I want to bring up Ade's comment too. So Ade says, do you guys think the pandemic hiring spree has an effect on what's going on? Yes, absolutely. Yeah. So, you saw this rapid expansion of hiring happen during COVID, and and that's due to a number of reasons, especially at the corporate level, with kind of money being cheap, as it's said. And so, that rapid expansion was made as a way to hopefully kind of not balloon. What's the word I'm looking for here? Kind of embolden these corporate developers to really, as you saw with Embracer, right, grab a bunch of IP and hopefully turn around a big profit on that in relatively quick space. Problem with that in the gaming industry is that's just not how the gaming industry works. It's very different from other industries in that vein specifically. And so what you're seeing now is money's not as cheap as it was. Hiring's more expensive. Keeping people's more expensive. And the reality has hit on top of that there are shifts in gaming revenue. I talked earlier about how gaming revenue is larger than it's ever been, continues to grow hand over foot annually, but the where that gaming revenue exists is shifting, right? So meaning that the $60 or $70 paid box game is not where all the money is made nowadays, right? And because of that shifting, your priorities for development start to shift, which goes back to what I said around Microsoft as a gaming entity now would have looked at where the shift is going over the next 5 to 10 years, what their long-term goals are, and saying who is most critical to those goals. And between, as you already mentioned correctly, that Hogue mentioned, is like back office staff, publishing staff that's duplicative, and things, and combined with roles that may not have a place in that 5-year future, that's where cuts start to be made. It's all one giant equation at the end of the day. You know what I mean?
So
Just sucks.
to me, this is we're doing a lot of talking about Microsoft, which makes good sense.
Yep.
I think when I hear and see the conversations today, it seems so Microsoft did this. And I think maybe that's an optic thing because it's today or because of the $3 trillion announcement. But Embracer's been shedding jobs nonstop. I mean, this will sound so silly, but like
I'd argue a much worse example than Microsoft.
I fully agree. But like the reason today it was on my mind is the team that's supposed to be making The Last Ronin, the TMNT project. Half of them got cut today. Well, I've been emailing with that studio head just about TMNT over the last few months. What? Like now what's happening with that project? How many jobs are lost there? And Joe's had to point out Sony's failings at various projects being canceled. I don't think projects being canceled is anything to be outraged about. I think mismanagement is. I think when you see CEOs getting pay raises, that's something to be outraged for next to stuff like this. But jobs that are redundant being lost or having to transition, that is an unfortunate part. There is a reality where teachers are replaced. I'm a teacher, for anyone that doesn't know, are replaced by screens and programs. It's already happening with virtual schools and parents wanting to just keep their kids out of social environments, and so they put them on a computer. Not arguing it's better or worse. I mean, not in this case anyhow, but it's happening. Jobs change over time. I was just surprised to watch the reaction. I didn't feel like it was Xbox bias. Did you? I didn't see that.
No, I want to comment on that, but I really want to shout out. This is surprising to me. We have Marty O'Donnell in the chat.
Hey, Marty
O'Donnell. So shout out Marty. So Marty, if you don't know, and you should know, is the legendary composer behind the original Halo soundtrack, the obvious, the infamous Monk Chat, and a whole lot more. Marty has been around the gaming industry for a very long time. Marty, I did not expect to see you here this evening, but hat tip to you, and thank you for everything you've done for the games we love and the industries. Yeah, it's
big time.
Yeah, I mean,
I know you guys got all the Halo stuff. I got the Master Chief helm staring at me. I got the Halo poster right there.
Marty, I want to interview that guy.
Yeah, Marty. So I doubt you've ever stopped by Cast Co-op or Season Gaming before, but really cool to see you. This is kind of a shocking moment. I did a double take at looking at the screen just now. And I think what Marty calls out here, if I hope this is where you were going, Marty, is kind of what I was speaking to, is that, Phil Spencer, as we've said many times here, right? no matter what image you have of Phil Spencer as a gamer online, right? And no doubt he plays games, but he is one of the top 16 executives at Microsoft, right? The company we're talking about. And as I've already stressed, and Matt Booties obviously reports directly to him.
Mm-hmm.
As I've already stressed, these are corporate level decisions and high level corporate level decisions. And I think that what we've kind of stressed to what Marty's getting to is the human element, which is, you have all these creatives in this space that produce kind of wonderful things in all different varying capacities. And oftentimes, just like in other industries, the people that are really the foundational workers, in the sense of they're the ones who keep this going and produce what the outtake or the output is, excuse me, are the ones that get treated the worst. And that's one of those incredibly sad and frustrating realities of the corporate, which I'm living through right now, the corporate hellscape that we often find ourselves in.
Yeah. I took the words out of my mouth, my friend.
So,
I mean,
Marty,
and it's a thing that I'm struggling with, man. It's like, again, it's like, I get it, late stage capitalism, all that jazz, but like, damn, I can't, like, when I see people going like, I moved to for this job, I loved my team, I need to pay medical bills, I got student, like, you can't help but be just, man, feel for all these people. And it truly sucks. It truly just absolutely sucks. So I don't want to talk in circles, but Luke.
Well, I think like I'm struggling to add more nuance to something that I think we've done a good job at fleshing out already.
Yeah.
But I suppose my final kind of thought on this is an agreement that yes, it does suck, and truly and I am kind of distracted by how amazing it is to see Marty O'Donnell in the chat. I'm not gonna lie.
No pressure, Luke. No pressure.
Yeah, no pressure.
You could ask him to be on XEP, the best Xbox podcast I've ever listened to in my entire life. Later, but right now, I
would love that. No, I think at the end of the day, my hope is that these consistent calls for change in the industry are not just on social media, not just by panelists or the very small niche consumers, because the reality is we live in a very small ecosystem in these podcast spaces, in our social spaces, and the bigger elements of the customer base that Xbox tries to appeal to, even more so now that they're going all digital, are unaware of these things. Very few people outside of this ecosystem are going to know even who Embracer Group is, even know that Bungie is owned by Sony now and was Activision before that. You know what I mean? Very few people know these things because the customer side just doesn't need to in order to enjoy their products. And so on the worker side, I saw a narrative director over at PlayStation today calling for unionization. Yep. We've seen that be a common trend. We've seen, even prior to the merger and acquisition, unionization of Activision Blizzard personnel. And if indeed that's going to be how change is made, then rock on. I'm not a part of that industry. I'm a consumer of it. So I hope that it's not just calls for change from the apathetic that want to be outraged today about this one thing and then move on. Right.
And I think, Aid in the chat writes, Luke, how would you suggest changes being made to stop this? The gaming industry seems very volatile as it is. Right. Like you are dealing with projects that we are now looking at down the barrel of a Spider-Man game that costed $300 million to make. Mm-hmm. And I think what you said, Luke, is kind of possibly one of the antidotes, which is unionization. Mm-hmm. If this doesn't, spark the call, what will at this point? I think unionization is the step in the right direction. I used to belong to a really great union that made sure that I got raises every year, that I had sick leave and PTO. And that's what these devs also need as well. So I think that is part of the solution as well.
And I think my hope is that as we are adjusting the market, because markets do shift, markets collapse, my hope is that scope is something that's being accounted for. And Ains, I would ask for your corporate mind on this, but something I feel like I'm seeing in the strategies that differ between Nintendo, Sony, and Microsoft that inevitably try to mimic the other down the line, which is amusing in and of itself. I feel like from the outside looking in, the scope of Microsoft's game projects feels smaller than the scope of some of the Sony projects in budget. And that is mildly informed by the Insomniac hack. It's also informed by what I feel when I see Avowed on screen. I don't think that is the same level of investment that I see when I see Ghost of Tsushima. And I maybe I'm wrong, but does the scope of the project also help avoid some of these problems, these bloated teams or whatnot? Am I no too far off base?
No, I think no. Listen. When I say one of the antidotes, I think the other thing is like scope. It's. I think right now you saw a lot of people chase after the how can we make this game last forever type of game. And you're seeing very few games succeed at that, and you're starting to see companies pivot into saying, okay, well, where else do we go? If this isn't working for us, how do we continuously make again that graph point upwards? And I think part of that is like smaller experiences. I spoke about this a few weeks ago. It's like, dude, I would kill for a nice 8 to 15 hour game, man. That's nice. I got a full-time job. It's hard for me to keep up. Not every game needs to be Elden Ring. Not every game needs to be Tears of the Kingdom. Some games could just be a nice not so meaty experience. And I think scope's one of those things. And I think with like a mixture of, limiting scope, limiting the range of what you want to do with your game, at the same exact time, treating your workforce right, unionizing, that seems like a good combination to me.
Yeah. So, a lot of points to touch on. So starting with scope, I think you guys are just, again, my opinion. I think you guys are on the right track in terms of scope of games themselves, and I would say that to your question, Luke, around kind of the scope of the games that you see in terms of output, right, of one publisher versus another. I think yes, but you also have to look at the scope of the entire output of the publisher, right? So it's not necessarily one game scope. It's around the scope of what they are getting, what type of games you're producing, and what that return is for your total investment, which would include all your studios and all of your resources, right?
Yeah.
So I think that's, again, going back to the massive growth we've seen with Microsoft Gaming in the past 5 years since the acquisitions were announced in 2018, right? I was trying to do some numbers today, but if I have my numbers somewhere in the ballpark, I want to say that what's Xbox first party has grown from about 6,000 people to over 22,000 people in 4 years. Okay. That is bonkers, right?
Yeah.
That doesn't happen like that, especially in an industry that, if you think about it, the acquisition people have proven of their returns, but in many cases, it looked like the $68 billion of acquisition of Activision Blizzard was overvalued, right? They're paying for the long-term potential there. And the only way you reach long-term potential in that return on investment is by minimizing expense now, right? Post-acquisition. So long-winded way to say yes and to your original point there, Luke. What was I lost the talk track
Scope,
of the other thing
scope.
you guys did. That's the scope one. What was the other thing we were just saying?
Unionization.
Thank you. So I'll tell you guys, and I got to be careful what I say in terms of what I've been through lately. I was
just lose your job and talk. Give us the truth. Speak your truth, Ains.
No. Because I quite literally was on a 2-hour training earlier this week on unions. No joke.
Was it useful or was it?
Wow, probably anti. It's like, this is not good for you because
it was useful in a way of understanding the law. That's what it was about.
Interesting.
That's probably the most I can say. But what I would call when we see developers talking about unionizations, again, it's one of those weird situations where, to an end, I agree, and I think that we definitely need better. I don't know if protections is the right word, but some type of there definitely needs to be a much better. God, I'm tired, guys. I'm sorry. Much better distribution is the word I'm looking for of the profit and the revenue that is made in games from top to bottom level. Right. I mean, I think that's exceedingly clear. And I hate to see, because I work in development. So you always see those areas that are critical to delivery of things, but not critical to executives in their minds of how games get made. So areas like UAT, QA, community management, all those things that actually get the game out the door and functioning properly into a community, but they're treated the worst. The problem you have is, one, is unions are not necessarily the answer. and I say that in the kindest way possible. It's one of those double-edged swords. Unions can do good at times, unions can do bad at times. And in this case, I don't know if that's the 100% definitive right answer, especially once you start talking about how much money is at play here, because what you could end up with is a situation where the bargaining power then is moved to the union, which is what happens generally speaking. But the end user, the people we're talking about, right, the people who are creating the art or creating assets or other things are not treated any better. That can certainly happen.
Gotcha.
So it's a very hairy situation, and I'm going to say a sad fact again, but I honestly believe, and this is just my gut, but I believe that, going back to my initial comments, where the industry is now worth so much money and the key players in development resources and IP ownership are so large in Microsoft, Tencent, Google, Epic, all the ones we've talked about, Embracer, I don't think you're going to see unionization on a large scale anyway. It won't happen.
It feels like it couldn't. It feels like it couldn't happen, not even on some moral principle or even a business element, but just given the complexity of a publisher being international across so many countries, even, and the different laws. One of the things I remember reading in, I think it was Spencer's memo, right? Like, that's all we get to see are the memos. We don't get to have the conversations. Was your team leads will be having discussions with you in accordance with your local laws or something like that. I'm paraphrasing poorly here, but that is a fascinating thing, because a lot of conversations that I've heard in the last few weeks have been about Sea of Thieves going to PlayStation or Switch. And in conversations that I've had with people at Rare or people that know people at Rare, the laws of the UK just don't allow for certain elements of work to be outsourced. You got to be in the UK or, near enough to where Rare is located, in the right country. If you're going to outsource, it's a lot of political hoops, and that makes it very complicated to put or to hire a porting studio to put Sea of Thieves in some other place, to do some of the work that it might take to get Everwild out the door faster, because there's just not enough talent in one place. And maybe that's a tangential point to be made, but I find that interesting and somehow relatable, because to have a business on a global scale, there are just so many elements. Making a game is hard enough. Art, assets, physics, scripting, coding. Oh, we got a bug here. And then to distribute that game, that much more difficult, that much more complex, to distribute it into multiple platforms, places, storefronts. It strikes me as such a complex beast that sometimes I feel like we are Unga Bungas tapping on our rock, trying to comment on it on social spaces.
Well, I think that's what I dread about this conversation in the Twitter gaming sphere, right? Is there's going to be a lot of commentary about this that is so naive and uninformed. I just dread listening to it at times.
Yeah. And I mean, listen, maybe I was just feeling the burn for a second,
Good Lord.
You're going to need new jokes, man. We got a whole new election, and these guys are so old.
I don't want to talk about the election, anything but that.
Right, fair enough. I'm just saying.
You were at the click. You know what?
I'm dreading it.
Marty O'Donnell's in the chat. We don't want to embarrass him.
He was just visiting, Marty. He was just visiting.
Yeah, he was there. He just happened to be there. He sat at Nancy Pelosi's desk. It was weird. Ains is dying.
But yeah,
it was just a routine visit. It was just a routine tour.
It just happened to coincide with the day. I mean, come on.
It's weird.
But no, Luke, to your point, like, even development resources, or even your staff among different states have different laws about how you can treat them in different ways, right? So I mean, it gets far more complex once you go international and you start talking about different countries. So yeah, it is a, I guess I'll say this, it is a very complex conversation with a lot of facets and nuance and context to it. But I can't help but
as an industry have any type of conversation that's complex.
The sad thing is, I guess it's the easiest way I'll sum it up, is I'm starting to see the gaming industry as the same as other corporate industries, especially in America. And that sucks, because I know the reality of those industries all too well. And I don't know what can be done about it. You can list out a bunch of solutions. Are any of those going to be implemented in reality? Doubtful. It's just it's kind of disheartening in a way.
Can I?
We got 2 super chats. I'm sorry, Luke. You have your point.
I want to, if I can make my point, and then we do the super. You're not going to lose them, are you, Ains? Okay. The super chats. Don't lose.
Sorry, I was about to type, so I was on mute. What'd you ask?
Don't lose the super chats, because I'll make a point.
No. They get saved. You're good.
Okay. Cool. I just appreciate them contributing to the conversation for sure. In my position with XEP, I get to interview a lot of people, developers, right? We're at 119 or some crazy cool number that I'm proud of if I look at the doc. But in doing that, I get to talk to people from indie to AAA, and increasingly there's no AA in there, I might add. But in the indie space, you've got people doing 3, 4, 5, 10 jobs to get their game out the door, and their projects are smaller. And it's funny because you hear these eclectic, brilliant people that don't have certain training in PR, they're just excited to make their game, make their art. And then you talk to some of the people that go even higher up the ladder chain, some of these AAA projects, and most of them have the brilliance, the experience, and the PR training. And every now and again, you get one that does or doesn't have the rest. But I bring all that up to say is that very much so, the conversation that we tend to hear is PR trained when you're at a AAA level, when you're dealing with these companies. They don't necessarily get to, even through legality or other means, give you the full story. And so as a result, my understanding of that world is just flawed. It's just too small. When I try to comment on what's wrong with DC's movie studios, I'm not in the room. I don't know what's said. I don't know what the bean counters say. When I look at the cancellation of a game project I really want, when you consistently year after year as a diehard Bloodborne fan,
it's going to happen this year.
It's going to happen at one point. But there is an element that you just don't know, that you're ignorant to, that we have to be ignorant to because we're not a part of it. And then once you get to be a part of it, you're limited on what you can say. And so NDAs are a problem, is what Marty O'Donnell said in chat. And that's the, I suppose, a much more summative and faster way of saying what I'm kind of getting at is that our knowledge is too limited to fully comprehend why and how some of these things take place.
Yeah, and that's what was so fascinating about the court document leaks, right? About internal emails and memos, because you got to see the actual conversations that go on about some of these things. And as you've seen, and I think many of us saw, it's pretty brutal, and it's direct, right? And it's humanless at times.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. Now let's
super chat. Sorry, I was muted.
Yeah, sorry. Let me get these new super chats. Gecko, good to see you, brother.
All right. Gecko Gamer writes, I think the problem with downscaling scope is that you would compete directly with the indies, which, while not as rich, the AAA companies, but are potentially just as talented.
So I guess what he's getting at here is, if you take your portfolio and downscale them to the kind of big indie or AA level, now you're going to compete with the smaller companies that are more specialized in that space. And can you do it as well? That's an interesting take. I don't know, honestly. I would look at something like, would you say like Hellblade 1's a good example of that?
Hellblade 1, Immortals of Avium. Callisto Protocol,
Baldur's Gate is an
Baldur's
indie.
Gate.
Remember the budget of Callisto, though. The budget of Callisto was wild.
It was absurd, but the technologies that smaller, in theory, studios have access to can allow them projects that visually compete with AAA experiences. I don't even need to bring up the day before because that was a hit. But the budgets allow them to compete visually with those AAA projects, and as a result of that, they enter into conversations that perhaps they don't need to be or shouldn't be. Is it fair to judge some indie or smaller projects next to others? And then similar, and that is a double-edged argument because we watch Call of Duty itself, quite relevant to this conversation, get crucified in reviews, in critical reviews, for the length of a campaign or gun physics or whatnot, despite it being almost the same game in some ways, but also having an audience of millions upon millions upon millions. And so what makes for success, I don't think is fairly judged at times, because critical hit doesn't mean a hit with fans, a financial success. We look at how many games that look atrocious or are small projects that just go big, and everywhere in between. Pal World, Among Us, lots of Roblox titles. I mean, I teach middle school guys. They don't know what most of the games we talk about are. They know about Roblox and other smaller things.
You're 100% right. In fact, I was just talking to someone because we were talking about where the gaming revenue is shifting, even though revenue overall is increasing, revenue shifting. So I was talking to my son the other day, and he mentioned, so he's 18, by the way, my youngest. He mentioned that none of his friends, and he games every night for hours, right? None of his friends will buy a game over $10. They just won't. It's not even in their vocabulary to go to a store and buy a game for $60. It's not even a thought. This is a generation now, the generation of his age that kind of came up basically beginning with mobile games and free-to-play games. And it's where that kind of expectation is that you are, all of this entertainment is out there for you to just consume freely. Yeah. And it's a weird, when he said that, and we kind of talked about it, and I saw that Jen over at Windows Central posted, Jen, she posted, she was having a conversation, 360, with her 14-year-old about the same thing. Like, the concept of just buying a game is foreign. So it's a weird,
and the marketplace is so big, broad, and expansive. Like, it's just, I heard people talking about, like, the lack of curation is becoming more and more of an issue. So it's
problem Steam has faced for a long time.
You know what's interesting? I'm sorry, I keep interrupting, but I get excited about this. It's interesting. Every one of my students, not everyone, I would say 90% of them are PlayStation. But they all cloud game on their Chromebooks, and a good 80% of them that do are logging into Fortnite via Xbox Cloud. And it's really interesting. They don't think of it as Xbox. They tell you they play PlayStation. And it's a further testament to what they think of as gaming, because Ains, none of them are paying for it. Exactly. None of them. Meanwhile, if I go on the Xbox store or the PlayStation store, the Ultimate Edition of Tekken 8 is $110. Pandora Frontier, oh my gosh, that one. The most recent Avatar
Frontier.
Game. The Avatar.
Frontiers of Pandora.
Frontiers of Pandora. Thank you. Goodness gracious.
I was like, what?
Thanks. $115 if you're trying to get the Ultimate Edition. You know what I'm saying? Like, the gap. It applies so much in so many different categories. It applies in politics with the lower, middle, and upper class in the United States. It applies in gaming with indie, double, and AAA. It applies in so many places that the middle is very much disappearing, and the barrier to entry either needs to be negligible, or, hey, you give me something for playing, or you shell it out because you got the cash. And it's nothing to you. But there's very little middle.
There's so much to it. Again, a very complex situation, because as games are 60, 70, and then 2K's flirting with the idea of you'll pay $100 for the next GTA because of course we could. It's the idea that audiences are expecting more and more and more and more and more from each and every one of these big AAA games. And yeah, it's an issue.
I hate to say it again, but it keeps the things we're touching on, the topics keep circling back to my initial point that this has become an incredibly corporate capitalist industry. And what that means is consumers want more for less and companies compete more because it's always about increasing profitability and reducing expense. And it's a hugely competitive industry financially now. And in, when games are released, to your point, thousands of games are released like every week almost, basically, if you take every game, right? And the ones that bubble to the top, like the PAL Worlds of the world, right, are few and far between. For every PAL World, there's thousands of games that you've never heard of. You know what I mean? And so it's become a increasingly competitive industry.
What's Luke doing?
Luke's always doing. I just assume Luke is always
Sorry,
doing.
I thought I was muted. I'm building
God
the Megazord. Shut up.
He's playing with
You're
Power
muted.
Rangers.
We can
guys.
still see you.
This is what we
Legendary
deal with.
composer Marty McDonald's in the chat. Look at the goddamn webcam, okay?
Sorry.
He made music I walked down the aisle to, you son of a gun. Show him respect.
Swear to God, I listened to the Halo soundtrack today. Swear to God, I did.
Well, you're not showing it.
I feel like Marty would appreciate that I'm building a Megazord. Please, God, side with me on this. Just come on, man. Come on.
But anyway, my point being is exactly that, is that it's going to do more. The rich get richer. The oh my God, you guys, the lower get reduced to nothing. And Luke is going to continue building Power Rangers regardless of what's going on in the world, apparently.
I'm as red as a tomato right now.
You want to see my dragon dagger? I'm sorry.
You
And by the way, we all know that Power Rangers were just a very poor man's follow-up to Transformers. Come on, we all know this.
That's not true. You didn't have the martial arts and
Not even the
Transformers,
same.
man.
Not even.
Oh, God.
Not even in the same ballpark.
You come on, he played the flute sound like a trumpet.
We still have a super chat on the screen. Gecko, thank you for stopping by. Thank you for the super chat. Machine XP, $10 super chat says, just want to say we appreciate the sound and balanced conversation. We're trying, despite Luke.
I'm the problem. I'm the problem.
You're all having around this. Machine XP, thanks, man. Appreciate the super chats tonight and for the support. Thank you.
Luke, don't embarrass us in front of the wizard.
Oh
All
my
right.
God.
All right. Are we ready to talk about Power World?
Oh, I thought we had one more super chat. Okay.
Oh, do we have one
we're
more
caught up on super chats. I think we can leave that there. Obviously, like I said, I think this is going to be an ongoing conversation for forever, honestly. I hope I'll end with this. Let's maybe have closing comments on this subject.
Okay.
I'll end with, I hope that the video game industry matures and finds a way to reward those that are foundational in creating the things we love. My fear, as I've said many times tonight, is that being the corporate world it now is, they won't. But I continue to hope they do, and that they do right by the creatives of the world, because this is a unique industry and it is an amazing industry. And I think the gaming medium is going to continue to get better and better and mature over time. But I don't want the life to be sucked out of it just for the sake of profits, which feels like what's happening right in front of our eyes.
I'll end a little bit more optimistically.
Okay, good.
And to something that you said a while back when I was scared of this merger and acquisition from happening, is that the industry keeps constantly growing and that more studios are coming out there to fill the void that, other studios leave behind. Right. So the one thing that I think we're seeing more and more of are these smaller studios that do and make an impact, the likes of like the big AAA games. So I think 2023 is a shining example of that, of like Baldur's Gate. That is an independent studio through and through. They self-published, it's theirs. And they made one of the best RPGs ever made. God bless the folks over at Remedy, an independent studio that found the funding to go make the game that they wanted to make. I'm hoping that as we get, as publishers or AAA publishing becomes more nebulous as to what their goddamn point is, we start seeing more of these studios come up and be the next Bethesda, be the next, oh my goodness, be the next, oh my God, the folks that made Mass Effect, like BioWare, there you go. That they take those mantles and they become, greater because of it. I think of CD Projekt Red. Witcher 3 just changed the map for them and how we view them and their expectations and the journey that we went with CD Projekt. They were not in the conversation as they once were, 10, 15 years ago. And now they are one of the premier RPG makers. So to me, I think I want to leave more optimistically saying, yeah, maybe these big corporations, they don't get it. And someone is going to rise up and show them how it's done. That's it. That's what I'm going to leave on. Optimism. Luke, got your fidget spinner, bud?
I will say, let me
We're all
say
gonna
real
die.
quick, right at the end of that is, I think that is the one area you can point to, is that usually what happens, right, is, as we've seen, that after the CD Projekt Red debacle with Cyberpunk and the leadership over there kind of, making some terrible decisions because of money, you're seeing 3 different studios now, new studios have been started up by ex CD Projekt Red developers. And you will see that there is kind of a cycle of life of studio talent. So I do hope we see more of that as well. Agreed.
I think it's all doom and gloom. The industry's dying. It's all dead. There's no way to recover. Anyway, Power World broke the internet.
All right.
Yeah.
Let's
Did you
talk
guys?
about it.
Well, Power World.
Yeah.
I hear it's just a ripoff Pokemon with guns. I think that's the joke that keeps going around. But what has been really neat to me is to see this team launch. It breaks servers in terms of how many people were interested in it, showing a clear eye towards what this game is doing. It is interesting to me that a lot of the most current builds are on Steam, not on Xbox Game Pass, though it did launch there. Concurrence, at the most recent that I saw, 730,000 concurrent players.
It broke 1.8 million.
Did it? Okay, I'm on a Windows Central
Yeah.
articles last update.
Oh no, it's literally second all time on Steam now in terms of concurrent, only behind PUBG.
I see it. No, you're absolutely right. I see they updated below 2 million concurrent on Steam.
They broke 2 now.
Yeah. 2 million. Counter-Strike 2's peak of 1.8 million was broken. Player Unknown's Battlegrounds of 3.2 million still sits on top. The big thing I think is worth noting here is that Pocket Pair has done a good job of setting out a roadmap, giving content, it's bare bones, stating it's early access, and making it available. I'm really interested to watch how they navigate the legal spaces, people going after them for possible plagiarism of Pokemon. Hush, there's an entire genre called Metroidvania. There's an entire genre called Soulsborne. Like, no, you're not going to, I don't think you win that battle. I also don't think going after it as a Pokemon clone makes any sense either, because the gameplay isn't the same. Mind you, I have not gone hands-on. I'm quoting what people that I'm close to me have played, including Captain Logan, my co-host. Shout out to him. It's just not the same game. I really love that this exists. I think it's great that this exists. I think it's great people are having a blast with it, and rock on to them for having a content roadmap. I did see some stuff, guys, about the use of AI, in some of its art. And again, I worry that I'm out of touch here. I don't think AI is the devil. I think it's very much like a weapon. It's who's wielding and where it's pointed. I think it can be used quite well or quite poorly. So I'm really fascinated by the story as someone who's not really interested in playing the game. I think it's a really neat story to watch happen.
Yeah.
It's been weird because a lot of the accusations waged against the game are false. So like the fact that this game uses AI, there's no proof. The only evidence that some people have held up is that prior games that this team has made or publisher has made has been AI, the use of AI. The game director, if I'm not mistaken, has fond opinions of AI, maybe too overly fond, and that's about it. when it comes to using the Jesus Christ, Luke, you can't help yourself, you son of a bitch. Put it away. Put it.
God, I'm sorry. I couldn't
Marty
help it.
McDonald was in the chat, and you can't. You're playing with the mouth of this goddamn Megazord.
I'm trying to fix that. All right. What am I supposed to do with my hands?
Just sit
goddamn
still,
side.
dude.
God.
Tie him to the chair. Logan,
Yeah.
how do you deal with this? What's
Twiddle
going
a
on
pen.
here?
That's what I do. My God. Marty was in here for 45 minutes. God
He's
bless
like, what
him.
am I supposed to do? You're in a conversation. Be here.
Grab a fuzzy ball and go like this. I don't know what to help you. Where was I? Right. So like
I'm listening to everything.
I got it. Yeah. It's my problem. It's like I'm back at work. So
I like the Xbox cup.
Oh, look at that. That's nice.
Chris Money Rumble gave me this.
Nice.
Yep.
Yeah. Good.
Joe, were you trying to make a point?
A lot of the accusations are not based on facts. So even like the models that some Twitter user, and I think this is part of the problem with, and I think I said this on the trophy room. So sorry if y'all are listening for a second time. Is like one of the problems I have with games journalism as it stands. It's like, hey, this is what a Twitter user that I have no idea. It's just an anime, image with a bunch of numbers as a handle has shown, and it's a model of how strikingly similar the Pokemon are to the pals, and that turned out to be false. That was something that wasn't true. That was something that they made to harm the developer.
Yes.
So it's like they didn't take anything from what we see from Pokemon. It just looks like, hey, hon, we got Pokemon at home. And that's fine. It echoes to the point of like what you were saying, Luke, which is like there's Metroidvanias that exist, Soulsborne games that exist. Look, what's Lords of the Fallen looks very similar to that of Dark Souls, but plays differently. Elden Ring, and if you put a picture of Elden Ring and a picture of Dark Souls next to each other, and you showed a layman, they thought it would the same game, but those are two vastly different experiences. So, to me, it's like, yeah, both things could be partially true, which is like, is the direction wholly original? No, but is it copying? Absolutely not. The Pokemon Company has come out to say pretty much a nothing burger of like, we'll look into it, but this game has been announced for over a year now, and they have done nothing. And we know Nintendo and the Pokemon Company are both very litigious companies. So if they have not done anything now, chances are they're not going to do anything anytime soon. So to me, I just, it aggravates me because in the land of like all these layoffs, we're seeing a developer come out, put out a game that is so popular, it is going to be it has a good chance of being the #1 top selling game this year. And like, can we just for a second cheer for this small team that was able to do something different and look maybe similar and see success out of it? And I just don't see how we can't do that. Or if we have suspicions, maybe we go, okay, I'm gonna hold back the cheering and applause because I don't know yet and I don't have all the facts. So I'm just gonna stand back and let them have this moment. It feels, I don't know, rather Kanye at the VMAs.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, so we talked a little bit about this on Bitcast last week. Hogue, it's kind of a legal question in some ways, so we always love his insight on these things. And he gave some good kind of context around copyright law and what he generally said to sum it up. And by the way, he covered this on his channel directly with a video as well, which you can check out for more detail. But what he essentially said is that copyright law is essentially the industry wants, or industries want, people to be able to take an idea or a concept and make something new with it. Like ideas, concepts, designs, like aspects of games and other industries are not copyright. You know what I mean? Like, you can't copyright those things. They're not
Yeah.
yours in that sense. And you guys gave some good examples. And what he essentially said is, sure, this game on the surface may look like it has creatures out of Pokemon. It's not the only game like that. And it's certainly not going to stand, it's certainly not crossing a threshold of what would be considered, infringing on Pokemon in that vein. Generally speaking, they want new companies and other companies to be able to create products that do merge ideas and do these types of things, right? And I think, sure, it's easy to point to this development studio, Pocket Pair, I believe it is, right? And yeah, they've tried this before, right? They've basically taken other games and said, oh, we can make something like that and try to make it popular. And you can disagree with that if you want from any type of standpoint, I guess you want to, but they're allowed to do it. Right. There's nothing stopping them from doing it. And for what now that we now know for Power World is they found one that has become a resounding success. They finally landed the one that stuck. So now I think that my bigger question about Power World is, where did they go from here? So you have a small studio who has created lightning in a bottle. They have an awful huge influx of money and funding and popularity and eyes on their game. And sure, they put out a roadmap. If you read that roadmap, it's about as generic as can possibly be, because I feel they probably felt they needed to put something out. It's good they did it, don't get me wrong. But it's going to be very interesting to see if they can keep up with the demands of having a globally popular game that is being played by so many people, because they haven't done it before. It's new to them. So what happens now? And I think the next 3 to 6 months will be critical with their leadership team to see can they manage this properly.
Yeah.
So, but I tell you guys, I don't know how much you've played it. If we want to talk about that, I played it for like 10 minutes and I turned it off. I was like, this isn't for me. But I do want to give it another shot. And Travis, who reviewed it for IGN, made it clear, as have other people at SG, made it clear that the PC version is light years ahead of the Xbox version. Like the Xbox version is like, it's several versions behind in release.
Okay.
So did you just say IGN? They gave Power World an 8 and Starfield less than that. I can't even. Literally.
Yeah, I've blocked them. I didn't know it. Like when Travis is on Big Cast, I actually don't even hear him speak.
Yeah, they gave Power World a 7 actually.
Well, that's not what the internet told me,
gave it an 8.
Joe.
Did he?
Apparently, right now I'm seeing 7. Good.
Oh, he must have brought it down. I think he had.
I think this is the Xbox version. I think because he said it's as I do my great reporting. I scrolled all the way to the bottom to see the number. It says the version of Power World on Xbox and the Microsoft Store might not be nearly as polished as the Steam version right now, but that doesn't mean it isn't still a ton of fun.
Yes. So there's differences in not only how it runs, but for instance, on the Steam version, you can have a 32-player online server where everyone can jump into the world together. Whereas on Xbox, you have like a 4-player world that you have to join, together, like almost like a co-op. Like it's just not as fleshed out. But I'm interested to see where this game goes, if it keeps kind of this momentum, and I'm really interested to see how Pocket Pair does. Like we're gonna find out.
Just buy it on PC then. I want to try this game out.
The 10 million other people who have. I mean,
I want to hop on the train. I want to say I was part of the 10 million. Yeah, made the difference. Shoot.
Can I talk about how crazy it is that it's now second all time in concurrent players, and it's still nowhere close to PUBG? Like when PUBG became that phenomenon, it was. I mean, that's wild to think about.
Also, an incomplete game when it was there. You know what I mean? Like PUBG.
Oh yeah.
Also
very early level.
And they weren't able to keep the lightning in the bottle. Epic saw that. Fortnite saw it. They're like last ditch effort to make this game relevant, and
they stole it.
Exactly, and they did. And Fortnite steals a lot of goddamn ideas, man. Rocket racing is a better Mario Kart. I'll say it right here. It's
Well, what Epic crazy. Has done with Fortnite is a whole nother conversation. Yeah, it's impressive.
Can I compliment the chat? Justin, I appreciate every one of you.
Great chat.
Yeah, they're coming to my defense.
Well, I mean, that part's not great, but the rest of
Well,
it's
you
been
want to
pretty
read
good.
the super chat right here? I think it tells a different story. Let Luke fidget. I feel like he's staring into my soul. Midnight Jury at the $5 super chat. It's very intense.
I know, bud. That's what I was trying. I know my own strengths and weaknesses here.
Yeah.
Just let me fidget. Poor Logan. He knows. He gets it. He signs in for it every morning. He knows I'm going to be building something, playing something, but the conversation's still there.
Yeah.
Let me fidget.
Oh, you get tired?
Before every show, he's like, "High five, good buddy. We'll do this together."
Yeah.
It's true.
Proud of you, bud.
It's true.
Hey, Midnight, thank you, man. I appreciate the $5. I always say, man, that's just habit. I don't thank you for the $5 super chat. Appreciate it.
You said roadmap, Ains, and it made me think of the roadmap that we saw for Suicide Squad, which is a game that is very contentious.
Let's go.
For me, because I want to make super clear, and then I'm gonna let you guys take it. I'm goddamn furious this game exists. I'm so angry. None of y'all supported Avengers, and I played the heck out of that bad boy. I love superhero games. I love DC even more. I'm so angry that Rocksteady, who made my favorite game of all time, Arkham Knight, my favorite series of all time, the Arkham series, including shout out to WB Montreal for Arkham Origins. Love that. I even love the Vita game for Arkham. They made an open world Metropolis game in which I'm not Superman. They brought all my Easter eggs from the Arkham series in here. They made a live service game using B and C list characters, although Harley Quinn is an A list character now. Yes. I'm so mad this game exists, and I'm furious because I didn't even enjoy the alpha that we played, thanks to the NDA being lifted. We can talk about it. Do you know what makes me most angry? Someone just say yes. Please just ask me.
Yeah. Well,
I'm going to play the hell out of this
Luke,
game.
what makes you most angry?
I'm going to play this game so much, and I'm so mad that I'm going to play it so much because it's DC, it's open world, it's in Metropolis. And I'm just like, why? Like, this is, I'm just so mad by this game, its existence. And I got to tell you, if I get a review code, I'm going to be playing the heck out of it. If I get to interview them, I'm going to be so excited because it's DC, it's open world, it's Rocksteady. But it boggles my mind. And I just beg to the great gaming gods that are not smiling on our industry right now. Could we also just have the same Metropolis a Superman game? It's gaming. Making games is easy. Okay.
So yeah, we covered that already. Come on.
Yeah.
So the funny thing is, Luke, I think this is a great contrast between me and you, because we've talked many times about this. I am not a superhero guy. I don't like superhero movies, particularly, not a ton of them anyway, like the Marvel universe. And I don't really care too much about superhero games. Yet, I'm actually very excited for this game. And the reason, I think, is probably the reasons the reasons is the exact same reasons Luke's not, is because all this game looks like to me is a 4-player co-op giant Sunset Overdrive like sandbox where you can just go in and create chaos. And that's all I care about. I don't care about the characters. I don't care about the story. I don't care about the Arkham Easter eggs. I don't care that it's Metropolis. The game play itself looks fun to me, and that's all I care about.
God bless.
This stupid country.
Now, Ains, question.
I am English. You can blame them, you know.
Yeah. And Luke, wait a year until you can do that again, okay? But
what do I do with my hands?
I don't know what you do with your
You started talking. He already was like,
I know. I hate how he's embraced this, by the way. I really do. But yeah, no, I'm with you there. Like, the game looks really fun, and I'm actually not great at the Arkham games. It was the game that like I'd watch my brother play because he's insanely good at them. So like back in the day, these were never my jam because I just wasn't good at them. I was just there for the story. But for this one, I'm like, the story's intriguing. I don't care. I like it. I would argue that these are C-list characters. I think there's the allure of Suicide Squad that they are, disposable. And for me, it gives me that Sunset Overdrive meets Crackdown look. So like, I'm all about that.
Okay.
It doesn't
No
have
need
to be
to
the
insult
best.
it.
Oh, sorry.
They made 3
Just
Crackdowns. The game was so good. How many
But
Bloodborns did they make?
go back
Is that why they made 3?
All right. Jesus.
What was it? Me and 2 other people really want Crackdown 4.
Yeah, really. And I see some people in the chat hashtag let Luke fidget. Let it trend. Let it trend. But Ains, I throw the ball over to you, my friend. Because I get teased that this looks exactly like Avengers from Luke and our mutual frenemy Kev. That we game with on a constant. Does this game look like Avengers to you, or do you have functional eyes?
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. I was gonna say, like, I don't think this looks like Avengers to me. I think Avengers tried to walk that line of Marvel Universe, serious, not serious, but you know what I mean, like more hardcore comic. I don't know how to describe it. Like more of Luke's type of game, but then they got into co-op and or not co-op, but co-op and live service and looting, which kind of made this mess of a game. Whereas Suicide Squad, to me, and looking at it, almost knows what it's trying to be. It's trying to be that chaotic sandbox, which plays into, at least from my eyes, and you guys know the characters, or I know Luke does. I don't know about you, Joe. Know them way better than I do, but at least plays into the chaotic themes around Suicide Squad as they are in characters. Like I said, I don't really care about the characters. I care about the gameplay. But no, this doesn't look like Avengers. Avengers looked lifeless to me. This looks like a lot of fun.
I agree with you about the look and the lifeless element comparatively. And I think part of the problem was that was the end of Xbox One, PS4 trying to transition in, because Avengers ran quite well on Series X, but they were trying to make those machines do things that like the 2013 boxes needed to do it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
VCR.
Like it really is a shame, because there are several games in that kind of window of time that suffered as a result of that. And so to credit this formula, I think this game looks like it's taking advantage of the power, whereas Avengers stretched its hardware to the limit for a good while.
Yeah. So I don't know. This game's a really interesting one to me, because I think I honestly do believe this game could go both directions. This game could be a huge hit, sell a ton of copies, and a lot of people would enjoy it for a long time to come. I could also see this game completely crashing and burning. And I don't know where it's going to land, but I just love watching it unfold. What I would say one negative sign, and I was just talking to someone about this hours ago, and I know we know this, is that apparently not just smaller creators, but almost anyone but the biggest outlets don't have codes so far. And the game launches in 5 days.
I do not have codes, and I've requested them, and I'm the smallest of the small. So, but interested, right? Did play Avengers, did talk about that.
Yeah. So, I mean, other outlets I've talked to kind of in the indie to medium space and channels and sites and whatever don't have codes. That's not a great sign typically. Although there's always context. The only caveat to that is this is, from what I understand, focused to be a server based, because it's online. It's an online game. You have to play it online. I'm not even getting into that debate, but
I'm not scared of it. I embrace it.
This may be one of those ones where you see late reviews because they don't turn the servers on for production 1.0 release until the night before release, right? So reviewers may have to wait until almost launch to really kind of experience the game.
General PSA on that exact front. I don't like when outlets do publish reviews day of for games like this for that exact reason. I appreciate the spirit of and the outlets that do reviews in progress or things like that. Ains, you and I differ on what review impressions might mean, but
doesn't mean anything.
But numbered scores for games like this before the general audience gets it, I don't like that. And if you are getting a game this or otherwise, but in this vein on day one, give it a day. Give it a few. Wait 2-3 days. Don't pay for their early access. Let those bugs get worked out, and then jump in. That's just tends. Our crew regularly plays Halo, Fortnite, and Call of Duty. And I get pretty heavy into Diablo. I didn't bother playing the new season on day one. Maybe I missed out, maybe not, but I didn't have to worry.
Right.
Yeah, I think that's fair. The roadmap for this game looks cool. I like to see that it feels like to me that the game had a kind of negative connotation in some areas, and the team basically said, all right, start showing them the stuff we have. Because we saw this roadmap. One of the designers of some of the Joker themed levels in the game that are coming, an artist, released a GIF. I don't know if you guys saw that, a GIF of like some of the buildings and levels he designed. They look freaking amazing. And I was like, if this is what they're going to do, particularly, I really like that they're going to have new playable characters, because I thought the game was only going to be the 4 forever, right? And then they expand the game, but they're playable Joker by March, so a month after release, and then other playable characters. So I think they really could have a big hit on their hands here, assuming they deliver it well. The only other interesting thing here in that conversation is both the founders of Rocksteady have now left to start a new studio. So I don't know if they're taking the money and running, or if they're seeing writing on the wall, or if they just want to do something different. I don't know, but it's kind of interesting.
The Avengers community that knows and likes the service, they were very well informed, and they've gravitated towards Suicide Squad. There were 2 people that I was pretty close to as a result of Avengers being a small community that had the insider info on that brand, that genre, that are now doing the same. One's a data miner and quite prolific. His name's Miller. He's posts his stuff on social. The roadmap and content that's set forth for Suicide Squad is far better than Avengers has been. It's far more planned out, more logical and whatnot. But it remains to be seen whether or not people want it, because the publicly lifted NDA, the alpha NDA that was lifted publicly.
NDA,
thanks. The majority of reactions were very mixed. Hated it. Some loved it. A lot of in between. Characters felt very samey in terms of combat, very difficult to be intuitive with on traversal. But once you learn a character's traversal, which is different from another's, people were having a lot of fun. It really could go either way. I know who I'm gonna main. I think Joe, we all agree we were gonna play this one.
Yeah.
And like we all decided on our mains. But I will say, like, there's most of their traversals are stupid, make no sense canonically. That matters to me.
Explain that in the goddamn game.
Terribly,
5 minutes
by the way.
in.
It was so that's a best stupid explanation. But it's a stupid explanation.
Oh, Superman, I'm only allergic to green glowy rocks. Are you kidding me?
Yeah, that makes perfect sense, Joe. You're forgetting that the radiation from the yellow sun polarizes and charges it. Obviously, right. God, you sound so dumb when you
sounds
talk.
Great. I was traumatized as a kid. And now I'm dressing as a bat.
Yeah,
get over yourself.
What could be better? Put nipples on that bad boy. The exact things that could frustrate me. My bigger point is some of the traversals. You'll learn one that you like and stick with it, and you're unbothered by some of the stuff that would bother me. And so this game will sink or swim based on who shows up to play it. You know what I mean? Who shows up to play it?
I use Sunset Overdrive as an example because I adore that game, and it's just silly
sold
fun.
6 copies. That's what I heard.
No, that was going to be my point. We know that Sunset Overdrive didn't do well, right? Now that has other factors with Xbox One launch and all that stuff too. But this game, I think, from a sales perspective, will do probably quite well. I think its longevity is the thing in question. And can it hold sales out enough? Because you have to imagine by now they have invested a lot of money to make this game.
And if this game looks expensive.
Yeah, and if they're going to be serious about live service support, which is costly, they need that audience to keep showing up. So one thing that is interesting, if you look at the deluxe version too, is they mentioned, you get the 3-day early access next Tuesday versus Friday release. But it says you get 1 Battle Pass token. And they talk about Battle Pass, which is good for seasons 1 through 4. So similar to Diablo, if you missed this, by the way, you get a token, and then they're going to have a battle pass every however long. I don't think they said the time period yet, but you can choose when to use that token on any of the battle passes 1 through 4. So Diablo did the same thing with their Ultimate Edition, but just be aware, because there was a lot of people in Diablo who used it on season 1 and got pissed because they didn't have to. It's the same thing here. You don't have to use your token for season 1 with Joker.
Okay. Okay, thank you for letting me know, because I was one of those people with season 1. I was like, shit.
I did the same thing in Diablo. I did it anyway, and then anyway. But yeah, so I don't know. I think the key questions about Suicide Squad is, does it have enough depth in the moment-to-moment gameplay to keep people coming back? And can they, as with almost every game in live service, can they deliver long term at a cadence that is people are going to find enjoyable?
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Well, boys, that's all the energy I got.
Yep.
Luke needs to finish this Megazord.
Oh,
I
and
can't.
Like a Dragon tomorrow, boys.
No one
Infinite
cares.
Wealth? No?
No one cares.
No?
No, I don't care.
No one cares.
What? Who am I podcasting with? Dude,
People that don't like
So neither of you
Yakuza.
played Like a Dragon, the first one?
I tried. I couldn't get
Ains,
into it.
I'm cool. Did you not see the Megazord?
I tried to get into it. It wasn't for me.
No, I'm in all seriousness, I'm generally not a big JRPG fan. I talk about this on Bigcast all the time, but I played and I'm not big into the Yakuza series either. But I played Like a Dragon. That game's incredible. And I'm so excited about Infinite Wealth tomorrow. Man, definitely the game I'm most excited for right now.
So. A 90. And Tekken, a 90 as well.
And Prince of Persia, like an 87. And
Prince
Power
of
World,
Persia.
lighting the world on fire. I was like, you saw my tweet, like 2024 is just coming out swinging.
Mm-hmm.
Prince of Persia. Oh my
amazing.
gosh. That I was telling Joe, Ains, I don't remember if we were in the same chat at the time. Prince of Persia would have been in the game of the year running in 2023. That would have been in the conversation in 2023. It's that good.
It would for me, for sure. Yeah,
Same.
because it's unique, and it does what it aims to do exceedingly well. Like, it's one of the best Metroidvanias I've played in a very long time. By the way, Abe's in the house and says, Like a Dragon's my favorite Japanese RPG since Final Fantasy VII on the OG PlayStation. Hell yeah, Abe. Good to see you.
Oh, wow.
Oh, it's
Xbox,
really good, guys. It's
as
really
an Xbox gamer, we don't acknowledge Final Fantasy VII. Or something like that. I don't know.
Well, you can go play Final Fantasy VII, just not the one that was made in this past couple decades.
Oh, but I wanted to be outraged at something, Ains.
Oh,
it's crazy.
I think there's enough out there to be outraged at.
Yeah.
All right. Let's close this thing out. Luke, start us off, man.
Absolutely. So thank you to everybody that hung out and chatted with us. Really enjoyed having you guys here, reading the chat. It was really cool to see all of you guys hanging out with us. It's good to be back for sure. We tried to go last week. It's a conundrum, but because we're doing outros, I do want to say I just interviewed Cliff Blazinski, legendary game designer. Really enjoyed that. Really fascinating to hear from him at the stage of life he's in right now, as he's exited video games, the idea of going back versus not, his different projects. Hearing him talk about his experiences, particularly after reading his memoir, was really cool. So I'll point you to the Xbox Expansion Pass on all your podcast services.
It's either sorry to interrupt you, but it's either like tonight or tomorrow he's doing his first stand-up at a comedy club.
Yeah.
He told me it's mostly about butt stuff. His words. I said, okay.
God bless him.
I said, okay. It was a really enjoyable interview and fascinating because I'm fortunate to get to interview a lot of people. Sometimes these brilliant minds, to corral them is difficult. And you
did fantastic, by the way.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Because we interviewed Sam Barlow, another humble brag, and we just let him talk. We were just like, this is everything you have to say is so amazing.
Yeah.
Please fill my ear holes with it. Yeah.
I haven't listened to it yet, Luke.
Have you not? Oh man, give it a listen.
I will.
I'll say, like, really and truly, it was cool to hear him get so excited and veer, and then like to try and keep him to a certain focus point was really fun.
Like how we feel with you.
Pretty much, yeah. If I'm not, I'm not even trying to joke. Yes. But it was really cool, and I was fascinated. He was on my top 3 most amazing people. And let me give you a fun, quick anecdote. The video file corrupted. Cliff went back to his computer an hour later and tried to work magic to get it back, and we were able to get it back. But he didn't have to do that, right? Like, he didn't have to do any of it, and he's been very kind since. So, really appreciated that interview, and I hope people are willing to give it a listen for sure. And next week is Stephen Totillo from Kotaku back in the day, Say what you will. I'm going to ask him questions. Then Axios, and now his own project on GameFile. I think that'll be a really interesting conversation, particularly given the games journalism workarounds.
A lot of insight in that space. Yeah.
Very much so. So Stephen Totillo is next week. So I'm looking forward to that. So
awesome.
Oh, damn.
Awesome.
Joe, I don't want us to skip over your interview as well, because I've not had a chance.
No,
Yeah,
I
make
mean,
sure you
that's
cover that at
amazing.
the end.
Yeah, maybe I have a question for Steve Tortillo. Maybe you'll share him my question. It's funny. It's funny.
My question is that what you?
Yeah, maybe you'll ask him my question that I have.
I didn't tell Joe I was interviewing Cliff because I was scared it would not go through, and then the video corrupted, and I was like, and then it worked out. But like, so Joe's still a little salty with me, and I don't blame him, but I was trying to let it be a surprise, and I just didn't.
I'll just be happy that I kept my composure around Marty, and you two just lost it, you goons. Anyway,
I didn't
Ains,
lose it. That wasn't me.
That
was the other vampire.
Senpai, I saw it. You want to know why I saw a glimmer of happiness behind those dead eyes, Ains?
That's 100% accurate. Mariano Pomp with the $5 super chat. Appreciate you guys. Always happy to see Cast Co-op. Thank you, brother. And I know I didn't say your name like you would say your name, but I can't say your name like I would say your name. Joe, say his name properly.
Mariano Pampa.
Mariano. He wanted
Mariano Papa.
There it is.
He's not Italian.
Italian. What?
I just roped him into it.
I'm second generation Hispanic. You don't understand. I taught my dad English. What are you guys talking about?
I wanted to.
I tried. Thank you.
I know. Hey, I see Pampa playing Halo a lot, and I've been in on Halo Infinite, man. I've been in lately. Yeah. I'm scared to invite him and you, Ains. Y'all are.
Come play ranked with us one night.
No. Okay, what are we doing, guys? Get your headshots. And I'm like, it's 10 o'clock. I've been up since 5. I'm just trying to get to it, guys. Get out of the group. You are terrible at video games.
Oh boy.
I just wanted to play it. Hey.
By the way, Pampa says I take back my appreciation.
Fair enough.
Gracias. Gracias. On the Big Cat side, we talked about Pal World a lot, including Travis's review, of course, last week. Just good conversations all around there. We are actually off this week. I'm away this weekend. So Big Cats will be back next weekend, but just looking forward to talking about like I said, Like a Dragon and Suicide Squad. So I'm sure we'll have a big conversation on that here next weekend. Other than that, pretty quiet on the season gaming front. We do have a review up for Last of Us 2 Remastered. So we took another look at that, just given that it's a game that was, I'm not even going to make a funny comment here. But we do have reviews coming as well for Suicide Squad and Pal World and some other things in flight as well. So just stay tuned for those. But yep. Joe, I almost said Luke. Joe.
Yeah. Instead of telling people where they could find me over at Mr. Badbear on Twitter, I'm going to tell everybody, direct who you thought would win in a fight. Direct that message over to at Mr. K-Step. Who would win in a fight? Joel from The Last of Us or Leon Kennedy from Resident Evil 2?
This is not a real question.
Stupid question.
Not. It's not. He needs to wake up. Because I even said Leon from Resident Evil 2 would cap Joel in a heartbeat. Okay? You're kidding me. Old man knees versus a trained killer. Who's gonna come on? Anyway, you can find the Trophy Room, a PlayStation podcast, over on YouTube each and every Wednesday night as we record it live at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And you could check out this week's episode where we talk about all the cute little rumors around Death Stranding 2 on the beach, the Until Dawn remaster. It should have been Bloodborne, State of Play rumors, all that good stuff. And of course, our Sam Barlov interview, the creator Barlow. What did I say?
Barlow.
I always confuse Barlow and Barlow. Sorry.
He is dyslexic, everybody. I can say that. I know this.
That's right. And here's something else. The creator of Immortality. It was a fantastic conversation, 45 minutes long, just someone just dropping all types of industry knowledge left, right, and center. And let me tell you something too. He also hints at some more stuff that maybe you didn't hear about. Are kind of funny, like his next games, all that good stuff. So yeah, with all that said, with all that out of the way, keep.
Wait, Joe, wait.
Okay, he's got a little dinosaur. Just 1 second. He's finishing it, guys. Oh, great. The arc of this episode's over.
I'm gonna go with Ade on this one. It looks like a budget Voltron.
No, it's not. This is the.
That
Oh no,
is cool.
I broke
No,
it.
yeah.
This is the Zap Zord Ascension Project Megazord. Everybody, it's pretty great. It's pretty cool. It's pretty dope. Just want everyone to know.
Yes, Luke is married. I saw someone ask. Sorry.
To
Yeah.
a a doctor actually.
Mental health professional is what we
You guys know. Egg on your face.
Yeah. All right. Well, everybody keep casting that co-op.